wondering if you can talk a little bit about, on the automotive side, how Shell works with these OEMs, and what is, I've read about companies like, I've actually seen on the industrial side, Shell has a specific group that will, work with the large equipment builders like Caterpillars and John Deere's. I'm wondering if you can sort of talk a little bit about how Shell engages and interacts with the automotive OEMs. Is there, a specific team that's out there to get sort of the OEM to approve or to recommend, when you're filling up your, Toyota Microlight commercial truck, use, Shell Rotella, or, what is that sort of, how does Shell work with these automotive OEMs, if you will?
Yeah. So first of all, there are dedicated teams for working with OEMs. From an OEM perspective, their emphasis actually on two fronts. Definitely the technical front is always of paramount importance to OEMs. So, well, there's actually different kinds of OEMs and how they think about this whole category. So, okay. First of all, every OEM will have their engineering division, which is involved with engine design and which will demand certain performance specifications from the lubricant. They will tend to follow industry standards such as API and ASEA, but at the same time, a few of them will lay down their own additional specifications. So Ford, for example, will have a Ford WSS M2C 923. I'm not sure what the latest is, 923A or B or something. So they have their own sort of proprietary specifications, and they demand the lubricants needs to fulfill that. Now, fulfilling the requirements of an OEM spec is very different from fulfilling the requirements of industry standard specs, such as ASEA or API. When it comes to industry specs, you don't need certification, but you just need to have the formulation which meets the engine bench test requirements. So it's kind of a self-certification. But when it comes to OEM specs, you actually have to do field trials with the OEM, which is long drawn and pretty expensive. And so OEMs don't necessarily want to work with 40 or 50 lubricant companies on doing this, putting a lot of resource behind these tests. So it is quite difficult to work with OEMs in that sense, that they do pick and choose, and there's no hard and fast criteria. So it's pretty much a sales call that you call on them and you say, we'd like to work with you on whatever you're developing next, and then go through the whole cycle of engine testing and bench tests until you get what's called as an OEM approval of that specification. It's only then that you can claim that your product meets that specification. Now, it then goes beyond that. A lot of OEMs don't just look at the technology side, but they also look at the commercial angle. So they will want to participate in the value chain in some sense. So there's, especially in the Asian markets, there is an increasing prevalence of what used to be called as GPOs, genuine part oils. And now it's in fact evolving into house brands. So Toyota, for example, will, or let's say in a lot of the Asian markets,
like a private label brand, like Toyota.
Yeah, that's right. So Toyota wasn't. I mean, they were actually in the Japanese markets. They were. So they would have a Toyota branded oil, which was called genuine part oils, which, they would outsource to one of the lubricant companies, define the formulation, define the specifications, and define their in-house requirements if they had any, such as the Ford example that I gave, and ask the lubricant company to blend it, manufacture it, and supply it. both